There's this reel going around right now. There's a lady, it's a mom talking to her little kid, going, if we sneeze at school, remember what we say, allergy. She goes, got it? And she looks at the kid, she goes, aller? He goes, aller?
Aller?
G. And he goes, G. And she goes, allergy. And the kid goes, coronavirus.
When the coronavirus first started, it was like anytime you coughed, even in the grocery store, people would look at you.
Whoa, you're going down.
Calm down. I just need to clear my throat.
Excuse me. Like the line spreads, you go to the front of the line. Perfect. That's good for me.
Agent B, how to get your house ready to sell? What do we do?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You tell me. I think the first thing you gotta look at is what's your timeline. You got to see what's your timeline. When do you want to be on the market, but it's important to tell yourself, I want to be out by this date. And I've had people they've called me on a Monday and be like, I want to have my house on the market by Saturday, and we want to be out of here in 30 days. It's a little stressful.
Was that the quickest you've ever done?
Yeah, I put something on I had someone call me on a Wednesday. We basically, I went in with my own phone because the thing was just a complete hammered house. I just took a picture of the door. There were no interior pictures of the whole house because it's so bad. And we had that thing on the market like the next day.
What are the typical timelines?
I mean, typical timelines would be someone would call me and give me at least 2 to 4 weeks. I've had it as long as 6 months. I've had it in the middle of 3 months. It kind of depends on, really, it's finding out when they want to be out of the house is the most important thing. Because then we can work backwards from there. So like, if you were to come to me today and say, hey, I want to be out of the house on June 30th, I would say, okay, well, let's go back about 35, 45 days from there. That's when we should be on the market by. Because it's so busy right now, we'll probably have multiple offers on this house, have you in escrow within a week. Counter offers or anything take a little time, but then we'll have you, in escrow. So from there, we want to go a couple weeks back from there to know when we need to have our photography and all that type of stuff done, and just to kind of get it ready. So it's just, we want to work backwards from when you want to leave.
Got it. So after that, what do we do?
Well, if you're a seller and you haven't talked to anybody yet, you need to get an agent. People still think that houses will sell themselves, and we talked about this before. A house isn't going to negotiate itself, and a house isn't going to cover its own liability and do all that type of stuff. So you need to get a realtor. People are going to typically talk to a few agents, but I think the numbers like 80% of people, 85% of people, they go with the first agent they talk to, because usually they're referred to them. And if for some reason you talk to 2 or 3 agents and you don't hire me, I'd like to know why that is.
Always get a second or third opinion. I think it's good.
Not always. Not once you talk to me, you're good. You're good to go. What's going on with this interview we're doing? You're working with me, right?
Yes, no, totally. But only so they can see how good you are.
Yeah, you want to do that, and you want them to come and present and show. The biggest thing I tell people is, look, I have a consistent, I guess you call it, system that gets houses sold a certain way every time. I walk them through what that is, and so they understand that, so I think that's the biggest thing. You want somebody that just doesn't have just this new flashy thing they just tried and everything else. Hey, let's do this and then let's try this time. No. Let's do what works, over and over and over. That's the biggest thing, and then you can talk about, marketing and merchandising the house. But the biggest thing is I walk into people's homes, the first thing I do is sit down and go, why am I here? What can I do for you? And just listen to their needs and what they want and what they're expecting, and just walk them through what the market is, and and kind of go from there. And once we get hired, then we got a whole bunch of other stuff to do.
Yeah. Like the next thing you have listed down is pre-listing inspection and pre-staging.
I always tell people, once you sign with me, whether we're not putting the house on the market for 6 months from now, we're putting it on in 6 hours from now. Once we get signed, then I can go to work. So get everything signed, get everything going, get that out of the way, and then we get, if they have the time and they're willing to do it, I've had a lot of clients say, can I get an inspection done on my house so I know what's wrong with it? And so we can bring an inspector in. The inspector is going to cost, depending on the size of the house, anywhere from $350 to maybe $500 or $600. But it goes through all the systems on the house, everything that you can't see. It tells you everything that maybe needs to be addressed, so you can address those items. So you can bring in, I usually bring my stager in, and my stager will walk through the house once that inspection's been done and kind of walk them through things that they should do in each room to get them ready for the actual staging if we're going to stage the house. And, it could be, as little as just, we call it depersonalize, or, I don't like to say declutter because then I'm kind of saying your house is a mess, but I've had people say, hey, do you need us to move all our crap out of here or what? I said, well, I'm not going to call it crap, but it's your stuff, and you live here. People understand that people are living in a home, but you want to make it look like as neutral as possible. That's why you bring a stager in prior to the staging to go through and tell you what needs to be done. And maybe you might have some really cool furniture pieces or things in your house and different things that the stage is like, well, I can use those things. So keep those, but let's move these. To kind of minimize kind of the destruction,
Yeah. So depersonalizing, like what do you do when you depersonalize your house?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a lot of family photos, those type of things. You want those to come down, especially if you have a lot of them. If you're like a traveler and you like to go to, like I had someone that here's a great way. I had a guy who liked to hunt. You got to take the animal heads off the walls. I'm Catholic, so I mean, we have some crosses and things up around the house, and a few are okay, but you don't know how other buyers are going to react to that. So you might, take some of those items down, but leave a few choice items for yourself, that's a part of you, I think. Or if you travel a lot, I have buyers that love to go down to like the Mexican Riviera and Central America and those areas. And so they got geckos all over the wall and really colorful pots and different things that maybe it kind of takes your eye away from the house. Let's move those items away. Like staging items and things in the house are not supposed to draw you in so much, or more to move you through a room than to keep you in it, type of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about deferred maintenance? Like, what do we fix? What do we not?
That again comes kind of to your plan. I would say at minimum, you want to get those things that's like customer facing, buyer facing. You want to walk through with your buyer eyes on and kind of see what a buyer would like, whoa, what's that? Or notice. I always talk about the frosting on the cake.
Yes, what is that?
Yeah, so the frosting on the cake, I always tell people, like you go to a wedding or you go to a birthday or you go to a party, if you were to walk up and you see the cake and it's got a bunch of finger lines through it because a kid was eating it or something like that, or the frosting's all messed up or just not nice, you don't want to eat the cake. So you want that frosting to be as pristine as possible so you'll eat the cake. So that can include things like going and touching up baseboards or around doorways. That's usually where people run into things and nick the corners and stuff like that. Just simple things like that. It can be cleaning your windows, which is always a big thing. Getting a professional window company to come out and take the screens off, wash them down, clean the windows. Window treatments, like a lot of people have blinds and curtains. It's like one or the other. You want as much light in the house as possible. I've even done it as much as where I've sold some homes that were vintage, like turn of the century homes, where we've took all the screens off the windows and just put them in storage in the garage and just clean the windows. So it makes it look even brighter. So there's little tricks you can do definitely to kind of get those things done if you only have the time to do those things. But if you're talking about what else can we do? Well, if there's major issues wrong with plumbing or there's leaks under the house, let's maybe address those. Because when they do an inspection, it's going to freak out a buyer. So you definitely want to address those items. And when people have asked, should I redo my bathroom? I don't know. Are you ready to just drop $15,000 or $20,000 on a bathroom that may not get you $15,000 or $20,000 back? That's why you have the pre-staging done, because the stager will walk through and kind of say, well, we can stage around all that. We can clean this up. We can bring in some nice towels and do some, change out those shower doors for a shower curtain, kind of clean this stuff up a little bit and make it look great, even though it's, we call it vintage, you know? So whatever it is, but we can make it look great even with that.
And you mentioned moving something to the garage. Can you speak on that? So like,
yeah. I mean, if you have a lot of items in the house, box them up, put them in the garage neatly. Don't just have them piled everywhere so people can't see the garage. And I tell people, especially like closets, people forget the closets. They go and you open up your closet, they're just jammed. It's like a cartoon, you push it in and slam in the door.
Yeah.
You know, anything in your closet you're not going to wear in the next, by the time you close, like let's say you're going to be selling in the summertime, take all your winter clothing, put it in boxes, put it in the garage, make your closets look bigger inside. If you have a bunch of winter clothes in there and everything's jammed up, people are like, man, the closets aren't very big. If you take all that stuff out and just spread it out a little bit, it gives you the illusion that the closet's bigger than it is. And if you have too much stuff, we talked about this before, if you have this like a lot of stuff, I've had staging come in where we took all the furniture out of the house and put it in the garage. But if you don't have room, well, maybe you're putting some stuff in storage if that's the case. But we're trying to avoid you moving twice. So, do what we can to work with what you have for sure.
Okay, that makes sense. What about brightening up your home?
Yeah, brightening up your home, like I said before, it's going to come down to those window treatments, what you can do to clean things. If you have, dark colors on your walls, you might come in and maybe paint a wall or two, clean that up. Lights. I always tell clients before we come in and do any photos, go through and test every light bulb, turn every light on. Because a lot of times you'll have like a fan or like a fluorescent light or different things that has maybe one bulb out.
Or it's like flickering.
Get a second bulb.
Yeah.
Okay. And then get 60 watts, not 40 watts, get the brighter stuff, to make sure it's as bright as possible in the house, because that's what's going to show the best.
Speaking of that, with paint, how do we paint the house? Do we not? Like, what do we do?
Touch up. A lot of touch up, I think. Again, that's going to depend on your timeline and what you want to do. I've had clients that spent $25,000 to go through an entire inside of a house and repaint, scrape ceilings, really make it amazing inside. Change out some doors, do different things. It's all going to come down to what between myself and you as the seller and our stager feel is going to be the best course of action and where you really want to put your money. It's not always necessary to do it. So, I've had clients that do a bunch of the things you don't see and fix all those items like the plumbing and all these different things, but not do anything with the walls. Don't touch the paint, don't do anything. People walk in and go, man, this house just looks so clean. They're just cleaning it up and staging it and taking care of it and making sure it's styled correctly. That's really where it's going to be.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Let's talk about curb appeal.
Yeah, curb appeal is going to be a big deal. And again, that's going to be like the inside of your house. What do you want to do, or how much effort are you willing to put into it? Because you could go full on, bring in a professional landscaper and drop tens of thousands of dollars and just make it look incredible. It's going to be a lot of, what's the neighborhood like? If every neighbor around, their house is in decent shape and yours is in decent shape, then you can probably clean it up with some fresh flowers out there, make sure the lawn is green and all that type of stuff, and might work. But, if it's, if you have a lot of planter area, that type of stuff, maybe you throw some wood chips down, things you can do on a budget, might be a way to go. I always talk about potted plants. If a plant's in a pot, it probably doesn't belong in the garden. If it's in a pot, it belongs somewhere else. It probably doesn't belong on the property right now. Either put that plant in the ground or just move it out of the way.
Okay, so for the lawn, would you recommend putting in a lawn, or would you recommend fresh grass? Like, what do we do? Again,
it's going to depend on the neighborhood. I had a place I closed on last summer, and we had a couple months before we were putting it on the market, and the grass was dead and bare in some areas. And so I literally threw some grass seed out there. They had no sprinklers, so I bought one of those the little whirly birds type of things, and I bought a hose. It was big enough to cover the whole lawn, and I paid the neighbor kids who were like ages 5 through 7, $5 a week to go out there and put this place. I showed them where I had to go in basically 6 different spots on the lawn, and I told them you could run through the sprinklers for an hour, 10 minutes each space. And they did it literally every day, 7 days a week for a month and a half. By the time we were ready to shoot video, we had to have the gardener out there to mow the lawn. It actually grew yard, so it was great. So sometimes that's all it takes. And other times, if the rest of the neighborhood is really well kept, highly maintained, maybe you have to put some sod down out there, some fresh grass out there. And if it's something where it's not, it's kind of a trendier neighborhood, maybe a lot of drought tolerant stuff, maybe you can, level all the dirt out there, put some drought tolerant plants, or else just level all the dirt, get rid of all the weeds and leave it dirt and just list it as, bring your landscaper. Some of the tricky realtor language, bring your landscaper and your imagination, type of thing. So I've used those words. So But the key to that is, though, if you're going to have a bare, no yard, got to have someone there at least once a week to make sure that with a weed whacker, getting rid of any weeds and making sure it stays that way, stays super clean. Yeah.
Next thing, hire a professional cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do all this work, once the homeowner, you've cleaned the house a little bit, just straighten it up. Staging comes in. Staging is going to come in and trample dirt all over the place and move things around. As soon as that staging's in, next day you're deep cleaning. Have your cleaners come in, spend a few hours in that house, clean everything up, make it look amazing. Next day is when you're shooting your photos, your video, and all that type of stuff. And then you're going to have those cleaners come back to do a spruce up, like maybe the day before your first showings, or if you're doing open houses, that type of stuff. Have them come back at that point.
Let's talk about photos, video, and 3D.
Yeah. Well, the number one thing that drives me crazy, number one, is I go online to look at a house online and someone has just taken their phone, their iPhone, their Galaxy, whatever, and just like leaning back like this in the corner. I've done this, had the little fisheye on there, it's all, and I've seen it on multi-million-dollar listings and million-dollar listings. I'm like, a photographer is going to cost you $150, $200 for high-res photography. I've had listings before where we've had 50, 60, 70 photos on a property, and it was listed earlier in the year by another agent, and they had 15 photos on the property. And I'm like, it's almost a $2 million house. Like, come on, let's make it look like a $2 million house. I mean, photos, professional photography is a must. Depending on the house and the condition of the house, you probably want to do a 3D, like a Matterport 3D in there where the camera spins and you can see every direction. And then you get the 2D layout of the house on there. Depending on the house as well, you might shoot a video. You can do drone video flying over the complex. I've done it with, $300,000 or $400,000 condos because the complex was so amazing. You want to have that drone flying everywhere, checking out. You do the video through the house. And I mean, it's just, we talked about this before, it doesn't matter if your house is worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $2 or $3 million, it gets the same treatment, where it needs for sure. I mean, that is going to be, those photos and what's put together there is going to be what finally sells the house. It's like a digital book, digital basically flyer for that house because remember, almost 90% of people find their house online first. If that's the case, it better look great. I mean, if you go to Amazon and buy 5 of these microphones on there, it's the same exact type of microphone. It's going to come down to who's marketing that the best, who's merchandising, who has the lighting the best, everything else. It's like it could all be the exact same mic, but you're going to only pick one of them. And so that house that you're coming to look at, you're picking because of what's been put online. I mean, it's super important.
Sweet. So that's the steps on how to get your house ready to sell.
Yeah, I mean, start with the timeline, end with the photos. The marketing pieces and what you're doing in marketing, how are they reaching out? But we'll talk about that in another video. A little teaser.
Yes.
Stand by, people.
Check out
really how we go from that whole package that maybe took several months to what we're doing in the last few days.
Absolutely. Check out the next video, guys. On the end screen right here. Go ahead and click and watch the next one.
That's right. It'll be up soon, hopefully.
Yes. All right. Till next time.
Okay, you guys. Bye. Why are you still here? I mean, I guess you must have loved that video. So if you did, look over there, click right over there, and check the next one out. Maybe it's just as good. You never know. All right, that's it. Gotta go. See ya.